All right, good afternoon, Sheriff, and thank you so much for coming over a little bit earlier today, and thank you and your staff for the great job that you guys do in keeping our county safe. At this time, we're ready to go ahead and begin you all's budget presentation. Thank you.
Okay. So the biggest thing I guess I wanted to say, you all see our budget, you know what it is. When you think about the first responder business, that's where we fit. That's the biggest consumer of the budget of the county. But I needed to come and say some things, I guess, so that way you would hear it from me. Oftentimes we hear different things. But the first thing I want to say is thank you to the supervisor and thank you to each one of you all. It takes a lot to understand our budget, and it can get very confusing, but it does exceed the limitations sometimes, but you all understand the purpose of what the Sheriff's Office does. And that's been very, very important, and I think the citizens need to hear that. So I think it's so great that they're able to watch this, to hear that, because without you all understanding, us busting at the seams, and it takes more than just the sheriff, and it takes the support of each one of you all. However, I like to say in regards to, I guess, cumulative, in regards to salaries, I know that's one of the big issues. It's nothing new when we talk about salaries and where we are. I offer the state study in regards to salaries. However, I offer that, and I think you all should have that.
I did not, I'm going to email that to you all. It was 57 pages, so I will send that to you all in an email.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Sheriff.
We good. So I think it's a study. When we think about expenses associated with doing studies, we don't necessarily have funding to do those type of things, but I think it's a good approach. Again, supervisor in conversations have talked about, you have to watch the data that comes in, and I totally agree with that. I think we have to bring it back relative to who we are and what our finances are. But I offer that to you to give an idea of where we need to go. It's the world that we compete in law enforcement. I don't come here asking for a raise for myself. I come here asking for a raise for the great people that work at the Sheriff's Office. I included in the packet one of the things that came from the last crime trend report, something that I've never spoken about in here as well. And that's that we actually, in 2021, in the release of the crime trends, Williamsburg County was in the top 5 for the greatest reduction in violent crime. That's something I don't think a lot of people know. But the reason that happened is because of all the great people at the Sheriff's Office. That didn't just happen because of Stephen. That happened because of the men and women that work there. And so when I talk about salaries, I think about retention. I don't have all the answers. Again, in that packet, I think in the study it gives us an idea and a basis of where to go. There is additional information that I can provide you that has the salaries for other sheriff's officers across the state, if that gives some conclusion as to how we want to go. But I think we have valuable assets that in the detention center, the sheriff's office, communications, emergency management that have made us who we are. And if we don't look at retaining those people, then where are we going? Our success, I know you see a lot of things that happen, but our success in solving those crimes and being able to do those things has been as a result of them. So I wanted to speak as to where our line items. We haven't seen an increase in the Sheriff's Office budget, my God, since I don't know when. The one thing that has changed, if I'm not mistaken, has been the training line item, and that's where we had, I think, cut $5,000 from the training budget. But other than that, it has not changed, and we pretty much always exceed. I identified in each budget for each one of the areas under the Sheriff's Office a 20% increase in the line items because, again, when you think about the cost of goods and how things have increased, the expenses are going up. I get that that's an unreasonable expectation, but I just put that there to give a reality of that, yeah, we do recognize where we operate. I kind of wanted to give, did they get this as well, Supervisor? Did they get the memorandum?
What is that? The only thing they didn't get was the compensation study because of the size of that file. They got it. They received everything else.
Okay.
Is that the letter? Your
the
cover letter?
That's the workload indicators. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
they have that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So I think that's important too to understand what the responsibility. If you look at the indicators of the things that have occurred in the last 2 years, it gives you an idea of some of the main things that the Sheriff's Office does. But the biggest thing that hits home, this doesn't necessarily speak to crime-specific things, but what it does speak to is what are we doing? And oftentimes that's a big question. But if you look at the calls for service, you can pretty much in the actual year of 2021 to 2022, or you can go 2022, 2023 to date, and you'll see that you can add up the calls for service for every agency in the county, and we're pretty much equal to what that total would be. So that just gives you an idea of the volume of the calls for service that we have to deal with and the workload that we have to deal with at the sheriff's office. So I just wanted to come and say those things so that you all are aware of them. One of the things that we're trying to switch over, I think is more of a capital project, is the switching over our RMS, and Supervisor, you and I have talked about that. So I'll just say that it's something that we're looking at to do cost reduction. One of the things that we got in under the capital project sales tax was changing over our RMS system, which is our record management system. We needed to be more versatile. A lot of times when you just have the ability to come to a fixed point to do reports, that was kind of hindering us. So we went to this system, but of course it's very elaborate, but we're able to go back to a different system that costs less to try to save money. So that's something that we'll present to try to save funding in our budget and our operating costs. So that's pretty much it from the sheriff's office. Is there any questions?
Yes. How is the in the RMS, for the benefit of our non-law enforcement people's records
Yes, sir.
management system? I guess one of my concerns, and you and I have discussed this already, is obviously the overtime.
Correct.
How do you plan to address the excessive amount of overtime that the sheriff's office has been spending? Because we did a history to go back a few years, and it's been pretty high the last several years. I know that you're short. I know you have a couple of positions open, but have you and your team come up with some sort of plan on how we're going to address it? Because it's way over budget. I mean, you were budgeted $188,000, I think, for over the last couple of years for overtime. Last year, it was in excess of $1 million, and the year before that was in excess of $1 million. Today, year to date, from July 1 to present, we're right at 800,000. So we're on track to do almost $1 million again. Can you give us some insights, since we're in the budget planning process now, of what we can expect going into this new fiscal year, so we'll know how to plan?
Right. So I think in some of the numbers that you mentioned, the county has been reimbursed funding from FEMA for some of our overtime expenses. I don't know how that broke down has been in finance, but in those 2 years that you're speaking of, and up to April the 10th is the last day for the reimbursement, but some of that funding has been reimbursed.
Okay. I understand that, but it has to be spent first before it can be reimbursed. And then all of those funds are not going to be reimbursed because FEMA only reimburses for natural disasters. Based on what I've taken a look at, a lot of the overtime was not natural disasters.
Right.
So FEMA's only going to reimburse for natural disasters.
Right.
Even when we do get a FEMA reimbursement, a lot of times, in my experiences, unless they're doing things differently now, it may be 2 years later before we get that reimbursement, which means we've spent that money and we're having to wait. And we may get it, we may not get it. It's a roll of the dice.
So when you speak natural disasters, I look at declared events. And declared events is where your work time operates. And that can be a multitude of things. That could be more than just the storm happened this day, or this was the day of the tragic event. So that's just like Carolina flood. That's a very easy event to utilize.
Right.
That went 56 days.
Okay.
Yeah, the storm happened in the 2-day period, but for 56 days after that, we were steady busy doing things.
Right.
Because they're work assignments. And
Got
one of
it.
the things that we do, if you go back and look at any of the requests that we do for reimbursement, is we provide a detailed explanation of what we've done.
Right.
So I get it that it's dollars spent up front, but I think there's a responsibility of safety and to our community that all first responders
Right.
have. And so if we don't meet that obligation, then what are we doing? Now, there's ways to handle that. I just don't think those are the ways that we want to handle. You know, we have our team here that works in our county. They're the people that know our people. You know, when we say, well, we can't meet those needs, then that's a whole different road. So I get it that those dollars up front, but those are tough decisions that you have to make. What do you want to do? You want to say, I'm going to do nothing? And they're not popular decisions. I agree wholeheartedly. And I come in here and I get it. That's why I said to you at the very beginning, I get it. We're a big consumer of a lot of things, but I think we've always provided detailed explanation of what we've done doing events.
Right, but what can we do to reduce this overtime?
So I even identified in that letter, and I think that's, and maybe I did not explain it, I think that comes back to what attracts people to come to Williamsburg County. We have to be attractive in salaries to be competitive in that area. So I think the overtime speaks to the need that, number one, we need more people, and that we need to be able to pay those people. So how do we get them here? How do we get them away from, you know, the other counties are wanting to go to the other areas? What makes us that viable place that I want to come work? And so I think that's the part that I was speaking to in understanding the salary study, that we need to get our salaries up to be competitive so we can attract people to come here. And the more that we are able to increase our workforce, then of course the overtime comes down. I think overtime in itself just speaks that we got a problem. and that's why I wrote it in here.
Well, I agree with you. There is a problem.
Right.
But I want to get back to this overtime because it's a budget buster for not just your office, but the county as a whole. And so, you know, and I think you were referring when you were mentioning something earlier about salary on your third, I think it's the third page. Yeah, third page. Under salary, where it says, the paragraph begins, the sheriff's office. And about 1/3 of the way it says, the additional hours, and this is your cover sheet, it says additional hours are what have afforded us the ability to remain competitive with compensation. I want to make sure I have the correct understanding of that, because that statement could be misconstrued a number of different ways. And so I want to maybe give you an opportunity to explain exactly what that means for the members of council, so we don't misunderstand that statement, because that could be misconstrued a number of different ways.
Yeah. So I don't intend to mislead anyone, and so I'm glad that you singled that out and wanted an explanation. I think that it's a reality. I believe in speaking the truth. I don't come here to be deceptive or to mislead you in any way. I think that there's a reality. The reason that we do have some of the people that have stayed with us is because the reason we have some of the higher salaries has been as a result of the ability to work overtime. But I think along with that, in identifying that sentence, I also speak about retired employees. And the employees are our investment. So the result of sometimes the hours and the workload that has resulted in that, we've been able to be competitive with the salary. But at the end of the day, we end up with a tired employee that says, hey, I don't have any family time. So I just there are caveats sometimes to things that are just reality. And then there's the other reality that says, hey, this is the downside to it. So I don't know, does that explain that to you all?
I guess what I'm concerned about is, you know, we're $800,000 over budget in overtime the last 2 years. We're $600,000 currently over budget with overtime. If the employees are beginning to expect to get that overtime because of the salaries, then I guess my question and what my concern is that we're not setting ourselves up for a situation where when we do increase the salaries, they've been so accustomed to getting large amounts of overtime, meaning higher salaries, it could create a problem for you. I'm worried about that, because I mean, we want to work with you. Obviously, I mean, you know my background as well as anybody does, and it's law enforcement. And I mean, I've done it for 33 years, and I love it, and I'm very supportive. But also, we have other agencies that need money, and $800,000 over budget a year for 2 years, 8 to 900, excuse me. That money has to come from somewhere. It's got to come from somebody. And I want to hear, and you know, council, we've talked about this a little bit. What is the plan, or what can we do to reduce that number? Is there a number of personnel that you think that you need? Is there a dollar amount or a percentage that we need to raise the salaries? I mean, give us something as we're working in this budget. Give us something that we can work with, that we can wrap our arms around, so we'll know where to start at.
So I think I did do that in terms of the salary. I did that in these 57 pages. It speaks to detention officers. Whether you agree with it or not, that's your opinion. But I
No, I didn't say I disagree with it. Now, the only thing about that salary comparison is that's not, that salary study that you did, that you submitted to us, was based on state employees, correct?
I wasn't finished talking, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I submitted this because it speaks to correction officers, communications officers, state police officers. The world that we compete in, I get it, and I said from the very beginning, is that deals with state police officers. I clearly understand that.
Right.
But I think when you think about salaries and you say, so let's just look at even first line supervision. That's the first line of your leadership going out in the field to say, hey, you're going to lead these people. Well, you're saying $34,000. That's no overtime, and $79,000. That's a huge difference. Doesn't matter whether you're the state or not. Guess what? The state will come take our people. They're qualified people in their qualities. They got very good work skills. So at the end of the day, they have no reason to stay here because that's just an attractive thing to go to. So you have a lot of sheriff's officers that are close to us. They may not be competing in that same salary range. And that's the same thing that I said earlier. So we have to figure out what it is that we want to do. I think a salary study is good. They also feed into the study. And you'll see some other states in there. I think that's stepping way out there for us, but it gives us an idea. Doesn't give us the exact. I get our budget does not compare to the state's budget, but we have to work within what we have.
I got you.
And so my whole position on that is that we do a study. Whether that's a study that we said, hey, we take just what are our local areas in the PD region, what are the sheriff's office here paying, what are our municipalities paying, so that we can determine where do we want to go. But I think it gives us that position to look at where do I want to be.
Sure.
Right.
Well, I guess, you know, I'll go back again, but today, for the benefit of this budget work session as we're preparing this budget, because, you know, as you indicated earlier, you want to do I'm assuming you're recommending doing a salary study. Is that what you're recommending?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So, but in the meantime, while we're deciding and making a decision on whether or not we're going to do a salary study, what do you think, as the sheriff of Williamsburg County, what do you think the starting salary should be? And how many people do you think you need in order for us to be where we need to be at? Because the overtime is, honestly, Sheriff Gardner, it's just not sustainable for the county.
I understand.
And so how many people do you need? What does the starting salary need to be, in your professional opinion?
So I hate to give that number. I think if I stand here today and give you a number and I say, well, I need 50, well, then that's the number you say, oh, well, Steve, that's what you ideally said. I think that needs to be based on a lot more than just my educated guess. I think, again, that needs to be based off of a cumulative approach of looking at things. Salary-wise, I clearly think our salaries need to somewhere in starting salaries, need to be in the upper 40s. And that's detention center, sheriff's office, communications, it's all across the board. So I think that gives some reference point. As far as personnel, I think that we can do things to determine what our workload in comparison, what do we need to meet. I have not done that. I spend a bulk of my time out working because we're short of people. I'm not trying to say that makes me different. That's just who I am. I'm a boots on the ground person. I'm not going to lead from behind a desk, and I'm not knocking anybody for that. Okay. That's me. That's Stephen. So where I don't get a lot of time to spend sometimes because I look at what is it that the need is to be addressed, and that's the safety of the public and meeting the needs of what the sheriff's office is called to do. Sure. And so I get what you're saying. I don't want you to think, Supervisor, or anybody on this council, that I'm being disrespectful, because I'm not.
No.
I'm here to meet the need of what the sheriff's office is to me. And I try to do that to the best of my ability.
Sure.
I don't go out here with the intention of being reckless. I just think that their safety needs to be met. We have the crime going on. I think you see it. I think the result of us and our work efforts has equaled the reduction. But again, you do away with that, and then you're going to see that increase. You know, you see a lot of things happening now. You watch the news. I don't have to tell you. But I think when you take away from public safety, you open that door. And that door is you compromise the safety of our communities.
And let me be clear, we're not advocating to take anything away. We're trying to figure out a way to do something with this $1 million, because that's a lot of money that we have to make up for.
Right.
Let me ask you a question. What is the starting salary now for a deputy?
$32,000.
30. Okay. And what is the starting salary for a correctional officer here?
$28,000 or something.
28,000. Okay. All right. So that's where we're starting at right now.
That's correct.
Is that before academy graduation or after?
So there's never been a breakdown where you got an increase that I know of.
Okay.
There's never been anything where you graduate, you get an incentive for graduation. So we've never had the implementation of a pay step band, and we had that conversation in the meeting.
Sure.
We had the elected officials.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great thing to implement. But I think sometimes in implementing things of that nature, that's something that needs to be cumulative and understood by county government, HR, and the sheriff's office, because of the legal ramifications that can come with us just stepping out doing something.
Well, yeah, but I think that we could hire someone at a salary, and then upon completion of their graduating the Criminal Justice Academy and becoming a Class 1 officer, stepping that salary up, because you'd have, there'd be two classes. It'd be non-certified, then there would be certified. I don't think we would have any legal issues with that.
So not speaking to that, Supervisor, I understand and I agree with you wholeheartedly that we can do step and grade. I agree wholeheartedly. What I am saying is that we implement some type of pay scale that's different than what we originally had, I think it does need to be vetted and approved, and then that's what we do. That's what I'm speaking of. And that's just formalizing the process, that's all.
Oh, I understand. It
has nothing to do with disagreement.
Yeah, I got you. Well, the more immediate problem, though, is we got to address, and I agree with you 100%.
Yes, sir.
We got to address the issues with the salaries, because those salaries are low, and that is something that, we do need to take a look at. But, okay. Anyone else have any questions? I'm sorry.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The sheriff, I think Supervisor Washington kind of may have touched on this. The overtime is kind of excessive, apparently. Because I said, I'm not in law enforcement, so I wouldn't know how much you really needed. From the face value of it, it looks to me excessive. Would it be more advantageous to us if we were to hire you 3-4 more deputies and put them out there, put them into your mix, and perhaps that would eliminate or decrease the need for as much overtime? Would it be more advantageous to do it that way, you think? Of course, with that coming on, you have to pay other fringes and so forth for the new employees. Would it be more advantageous to do it that way, or to continue with the overtime as is? What would be your take on that?
I think the first thing is we got to work on getting our salary in place. And in salary initiatives, it goes back to what Supervisor Washington was talking about, even with the steps. Something to provide encouragement. There's a reward for you moving here. Same thing with retention. There needs to be some type of bonus incentive. Hey, you stayed with us, you committed to us. I can't do this, but I can give this in place of this. And to be honest with you, those are the things that we've been able to win at over the years. And that's been several years. That didn't just start with Steve, So I think that's how we win. We could create more slots, but if we don't fix the pay issue, we've got more slots and nobody to put in them. So we've got vacant slots now. I think there's a reality. I didn't say this. You have to go look and see what balances out. There's money that's allotted in the full-time salary line item, and then there's the overtime line item. I get it. The overtime creates an issue, specifically retirement-based, because you're gonna have to up that retirement percentage. But there's still money left here. So the big concern I look at is what's my bottom number? And I get it, Supervisor Washington. I don't want you to think I'm being totally in counsel that I'm irrelevant. That bottom number is still off. You follow what I'm saying? Even when you come back and put our FEMA reimbursement in, I get it, that's not up front. But when you come back, because if I've got 7 empty slots, I still had to pay somebody a salary.
Yeah.
So I still got money in my full-time. Yeah, I'm busting the seams on my overtime. I get that, but I've got no choice. So even if we add more slots, I just got more money that I stuck in full-time. And if I didn't change it, then at the end of the day, still, does my bottom number change, and do I have the people there to say, respond to the cost for service? And I think the answer to that would be no, because I've got empty slots now.
Okay, another question. How many empty slots do you have now?
Oh, I do not have an accurate count on that.
You don't know?
No, I do not know off the top.
You couldn't even approximate it.
I know at least, what, 10 to 12?
What?
Yeah, about 10 to 12. Yes.
How many total positions do you have?
So we were around 49. Talking about Ms.
I was
Deb.
talking about the grant too.
Oh, talking about
We
Ms.
can't fill it for the grant we got.
Yeah. So around 49 for Ellie.
So you have 49
Slots,
open?
yeah.
You have 49
Yeah, slots.
Class 1
We've got, I
law
want to say, 10
enforcement
to
slots.
12 slots open, I would imagine.
You have 49 slots.
And we, and I hate to say this, we get ready to add 2 more to it. So if we use 12, it would be 14. Yeah.
So you got about 12 open?
Yeah,
14.
I probably would go 14. So at the end of the day, what happens is you could give me 6 more slots, just saying, and guess what I've got now? You still gonna look at my overtime line item and say, Steve, you busting it at the seam even worse now, because I gotta bring those people in.
So, Sheriff, correct me if I'm wrong. So what I'm hearing you saying, an increase in salary for your employees is much more important than additional staff.
Right.
Is what you're saying, is what you're,
Right.
Okay.
I can't afford, right now at this point, one of the caveats that we have is, and that's why I use the reference of the statistics, we've got people that have stayed here because they want to be here, not because they got to be here. We got people that clearly can go someplace else, but they're here because they want to be at Williamsburg County Sheriff's Office. And I think that's something that we have to honor, and those people, that's in the retention side of it. And I think that's where we also owe, if we're going to retain them, because this too is just to show you what's out there. There's several of them that can go here with no question. And so at the end of the day, we don't want them to go here. We want them to stay here. And so how do we do that? Is there, again, by working on that salary.
So with those vacant slots, consolidating those slots and raising the current employee's salary, could that be a solution?
It can. The only thing about doing that goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago. And that is this. You're going to see my overtime line item shoot through the roof, right? So you, at the end of the day, my full-time will increase with that salary, but again, I still am going to have a workload because now I don't have the people. Does that make sense? So if my workload, so say for instance, we determine my call for service workload is, my peak time is 1800 to 0100 on a Friday. So, I could say, well, I'm gonna schedule people around to be out, because that's the biggest time I see my workload indicators. But still, everybody that I'm bringing out, I'm gonna have to pay overtime. And so now when you drive the salary up, of course, what happens with that overtime?
It goes
It's gonna
up.
shoot over me.
So another question for that is, how long have those slots been vacant?
Oh, God, I'd have to get the status forms and stuff and look at them to see. But for a while, some of them.
So then I would say, because the salaries around us are increasing, and I'm assuming it's probably a good assumption to say that those slots are probably going to remain vacant.
Oh, yeah, I could agree.
So then I still think that there may still be some type of savings then if we consolidate those and increase the salaries for the ones that are here, and then we can perhaps eliminate some of that overtime, because then you can schedule them, and it wouldn't be as bad.
Right.
That's just my assumption.
Oh, I got you.
Does that make sense?
It does. And I guess and I think I got your concern, and Sheriff, this is my biggest concern.
Right.
I'm going to go on the record saying that these salaries are too low. We've got to address the salaries issue.
I agree.
But we also are going to have to address the number of hours that are being worked in overtime, because if we are able to increase those salaries and increase those hourly rates, and the number of overtime hours continue at the rate that they are now, then all we've done is dug a deeper hole for ourselves. $32,000 is we got to work on that, Sheriff. I'm just being honest with you. We have to
I
work
don't
on
disagree at all.
we got to work on that. And I commit to working with council to try to see what we can do to help you all in that regard.
Yes, sir.
But I guess we got to get those hours down, those overtime hours. That's a substantial amount of monies over the last couple of years that is not budgeted, and a budget that's extremely tight, that we've got to find that money from somewhere else. So what I would like, if it's okay with the Finance Committee and the other members here, is to give the sheriff an opportunity to create some sort of plan to address the salaries issue, the number of personnel, and most importantly, the overtime issue. And let's try to get him back before finance before we do the budget, because we can't address all of this today. But Sheriff, that fair enough to you?
Oh, yeah.
All right, now give him an opportunity to go back and get with his guys. They can sit down and formulate a plan to come and bring back to us, and we can take a look at it and try to see what we can do to help him.
Yeah, makes sense.
We just looking to take the first shot at it today.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, I guess, when you all speak salary plan, so I won't have unreasonable expectations.
No, I think from the standpoint of the former sheriff, what I would say to you, Sheriff, is you give us what you think you're gonna need. Don't hold back. You tell us what you think you're gonna need, and then that gives us the opportunity to try to figure out what we can do to help you.
Right.
That's just my personal advice to you. I mean, if you tell us what you think you're gonna need.
Yeah, so I think that I get it. What I'm saying is I think I could come back in here with what I would call a wish list, and that could be very, very, very up here. But at the end of the day, I have to say this to you all. I am who I am. Let me say that first of all. I'm not unrealistic. I ain't coming here to play games with none of y'all. I am Stephen Gardner. I come to present you who your sheriff is. That doesn't come to be a pretty person sometimes. This is not a pretty topic. I just don't think there are certain things, we have a certain amount to work in as far as our revenue. And so I'm here to present that. I just want to make sure that when I come back, what are your expectations? I can go do something that looks pretty, but I spend a lot of my time. This man right here, we work a ton of hours to meet needs because we don't have the people. So when I put time into this, understand that it also stretches me even more hours. And so I get it. I think that there is a good thing, but I'm just trying to get a feel. Can you give me something back of what your expectations are?
We've got to try to figure out how to address the overtime issue. You have already said, and I agree with you 100%,
Right.
based on what you gave us, the salaries are too low.
I agree.
So what I'm requesting, I can't speak for everyone,
Right.
but what I would think would be a good starting point is, number one, let's find out what you think is a reasonable starting salary, okay, compared to surrounding agencies.
Right.
And the other thing would be, what do you think in both of these things obviously is in your professional opinion, what do you think would be a reasonable number of personnel that you would need to operate with, so if we're able to take care of those things, then that would be able to help us address the overtime issue. Because it could very well be, Sheriff, that you're already spending that dollar amount already with the overtime.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, because, you know, I've looked at the, I did quite a bit of, you know, research, not only into this budget, but into all of the budgets. And I mean, we've got employees over there because of the overtime. They're making $70,000, $80,000 a year. That's more money than starting salaries in this general area of law enforcement professionals. And so,
So I think when you say that, though, let me say something. That's total compensation. I think if you go to other areas, there are other areas that work overtime. Their total compensation is more than just that salary you identified. So you'll find that in a good bit of places, especially where they're allowed to work overtime. But I got you. I got a good idea of what we.
but we're spending a lot more money in overtime than anybody in this area. I think Berkeley is the only county that's even remotely close, and they've got 5 times the number of employees that we've got.
Right.
And their salary, their base salaries are a lot higher. So we've got to just find a way to address this issue because it's a budget buster for the county, and it's creating some an adverse situation for us as we prepare to move the county forward, trying to do things not only for your office, but for all offices, because, you know, we have one pile of money that we are able to pull monies from. That same pile pays salaries, pays overtimes, pays light bills, you know, mobile phone bills, automotive maintenance and repair, vehicles. It all comes out of that one pool. And the more we pull out of that pool for one area, the less we'll have to invest in other areas. And so we want to work with you. We're not working against you. This is not I don't want you, please, please. And if I have come off, or any member up here, and I don't think any of them did, but if we've come off as adversarial, please accept my apologies, because that's not the case. I want to find a way to help.
Right.
Because I want to make sure you've got what you need over there.
Right.
As we're attempt to move this county forward, especially as it relates to economic development, you know, they want to know about public safety. And it's a very important thing. People want to know that they can remain safe. I have a passion for this livelihood because of my experiences, and I thank God every day for you guys and your folks. And I thank you all for the job that you all do. I want to help you do it, help you get what you need in order to be, you know, but we can't, what we've been doing, we're not going to be able to continue doing. We got to do something a little bit different. Right. So we want to help you find something different, Sheriff, to be able to do. Is that about right, everyone?
Yes, sir, but I would like to ask, I want to ask you one additional question, Sheriff Gardner.
Sure.
Some of your staff, because of overtime, they've become accustomed to a higher rate of pay.
Sure.
And I guess my question is, if we can work out something to where we can do something to eliminate some of your overtime.
Right.
Now, those persons had been accustomed, because of overtime,
Right.
getting a salary that's not 40 anymore, is 60. And we know retention is a problem, you said, as well.
That's correct.
How would that affect your retaining those employers that you have? Because I realize that it's very important for you to have your staff. But once a person has gotten used to, and we got the same problems going on now in the county,
Sure.
they've gotten accustomed to a certain pay grade. Now, for some reason, that's reduced. Then you have a problem. They want to flee here and there. So I guess my question is, if we work out something to where we can cut the overtime down and give you some additional help or whatever, and reduce this and increase the starting pay, it's not going to be as much as what they have been accustomed to getting.
Sure.
And I guess my concern or question would be, how do you see that adversely, or even if it will, affect your operation at all?
I don't know. I could sit here and try to guess at that, but I would be trying to tell you something that I don't have the answer
Yeah.
to. Somebody may give you the answer, but Steve won't.
Yeah.
I will say this to you. I think we encourage people to base their financial budgets off of what their base salaries are.
Okay.
Does that always happen? No. We're not naive, and we know that people sometimes live beyond their means. And so if someone may leave, I can't control that. I can only try to encourage them to stay, promote a work environment that would, want them to still be a part of our team. But that would be the most that I could say. I think that it's a step in the right direction to increase salaries. And I think that that's all that we can do. We've done the part that we're held accountable to do.
Yeah.
So I think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, we want to give you what you need to work with, because I want to give you some kudos. Your department, about a month ago, I had a situation where someone, and I don't mind saying, someone stole something from my mother's property, and it was something of excessive value. And within 48 hours, your staff or your crew, they resolved the situation and brought it back to where it should have been, and I just applaud you for that.
Right.
So, and I was impressed by the expediency it was done with. And I guess if you did that on a skeletal crew or staff, I don't know what you could have done if you had a full-fledged crew. But again, I just want to give you those props while you were standing there, because I think you guys did an outstanding job with what you had to work with. But I did not know you had 12 approximately vacant slots in your department. Did not know that.
Yes, sir.
But still, all that being said, we've got to do something with this overtime situation, and together, hopefully, we can work something out with this situation, because as our supervisor said, it's no doubt about it, we cannot continue to do this. It's not sustainable. It's just no way possible, because the whole economy is going to go under. We're going to have to do something, and together, hopefully, we'll pray that something can come up, or we can come about with some kind of plan to reduce this, so we can move forward.
Right. Yeah. Well, I agree. And please understand that that's the posture we stand in. We don't stand in a selfish posture. We've never done
Right.
that. When there were times that were hard, the sheriff's office and detention center, we were giving from our budget to try to help them make a difference.
You
So
did.
We don't stand here selfish people.
Right.
That's not who we are.
Right.
So, thank you.
All right. Well, he's got 3 other budgets to go over. He's got a detention center budget, E911, I think EMD, and we spent quite a bit of time on the sheriff's office budget. I guess the next budget, Sheriff, we have is the
Detention center.
detention center. Okay. All right. Okay.
No call.
Oh, Lord.
How are you?
Oh, my goodness. Now, Sheriff, you didn't tell me Morrisville was going to be in the house.
No.
Hey, so I tell you this, I stay bogged down in the sheriff's office, but let me say this, Director Nadia Renee Presley, I should say, does an awesome job running the detention center. So I'd like her to speak to you all, because she makes it easier for me. And Major Brown, I'm gonna let him come on up too. You come stand up here. Hold on, now, I don't want y'all to feel that I left Vernie out there. Vernie probably tired from going to calls with me at night, but so anyhow, I'll let y'all speak and then I'll come back.
How's everybody?
Hey, fine. All right.
We have, at the detention center, a couple of pressing issues.
Okay.
And our main focus on some is increasing the maintenance and the building improvement. We had the add-ons in 2015, which C Block was not a part of the add-ons. That came in 99. Detention standards, 1 year is 3 years for living quarters in a detention center. So we need a complete renovation on C Block. We have issues as it pertains to C block such as plumbing, electrical, doors, locks, furniture and fixtures, flooring, and HVAC system, with also the roof. We had JWC Environmental installed a muffin monster in 2014 with the selling point of being replaced every 5 years. We're 9 years in operation with that system. It was $7,433 in 2014. The price today is $12,109, and we're in need of it.
What was that piece of equipment again?
It's a muffin monster. It goes in the sewer to combat, the stuff they put down the toilets, shirts, plastic, any items like that.
And it's
to
called a
combat it.
muffin monster. Wow. Okay.
And we're 9 years in on that.
Okay.
And without a service contract on that item.
Help me with something with the blocks, because I'm trying to remember which block is the C block?
That's the one that came in 99. Actually, that's our biggest lockdown pod that we have.
That's the one that was built in '99 when we did the renovations.
Yes. Brought
All
that
right.
home.
And there's been nothing done to that one.
Nothing.
That's the one
done.
across from the dry cleaners.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Very good. All right. Now I got it. All right. That's C block.
C block.
Are you guys currently housing anybody in there?
We are.
Okay. All right.
And then B block is also, that one was completely renovated in 2014,
Okay.
2015, when we got the new, portion.
Sure.
And in July of '22, we were reaching out to several companies to get an overall breakdown of the scope of work that we would need to remain in compliant. And this is strictly to C block stuff. We spoke with JHS Architect. That's a company based out of Columbia. After the initial walkthrough, JHS Architect sent out a proposal for $61,381 to have their team of engineers and architects to come in and access the scope of work needed to complete C block renovation. Along with the $61,381, there would be an additional $5,000 established for reimbursement expenses. And I want to just say that the 61 is only for them to come and tell us
What's wrong?
what's wrong.
In you all's estimate, how much do y'all think it's going to cost? I mean, I know that's kind of.
Just throwing a number out there would be $1 million or $2
Oh wow.
or more.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
And I don't think that entire cell block, when they built it back in '99, cost quite that much. But that's just how much construction has increased.
Just a little show and tell.
Yeah.
What we're
Yeah.
dealing with.
Here, you can give everyone a.
Mr. Supervisor.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Come on.
In the back of this is,
How many copies do you have?
Enough for everyone.
Okay. All right. Very good.
you'll see on the back some of the areas that we need work to be done. Just turn to the back page and you'll see the picture.
You gave them both rounds.
Is there a
It's
picture?
two different things. You gotta give both.
I don't have the one with the picture on it. No, it's not back in here. Okay. Yes, it's 2 packs.
I don't know. Let me see. Oh, I got it now.
And if we're on the pictures, I've outlined the areas of concerns that stands out the most. And this is all on C Block once again.
Now, your other blocks are in pretty good shape?
They're in pretty good shape, but that's where our maintenance contract, finding someone to come in to keep them, in good standings, that we don't find those people to come in. And the problem with detention centers, everyone is far away. They're from Montgomery, Alabama. There's no local vendors for detention-style products, even to repair locks. And so we're faced with the problem when we call for repairs, the charge is starting from the time they're leaving their location until they get here. The closest one we found was Columbia.
And most people don't want to take on a renovation project. Some of the people we talk with, just flat company, the only one to talk to, come out and look at the project for us.
And how long did it take, how long did it take approximately for it to get from where it was to in this condition right here?
In this condition right here, for the amount of time that since it was built in '99, we'll say that building is about 72 years old now compared to detention center standards.
So 99 until now?
Yeah.
Yes.
And nothing has been done
Yes, minor things, but nothing to this scope of work that's needed now. We replaced locks and we replaced, did what we can in some of the rusted areas, but
Right. Okay. That's the hinges off doors, handles off the door.
And in that package also, we had a company to come in from Alabama to work on the locks and doors. They came in and did what they could with what we had to work with and what they could repair. I think we paid them
$22,000.
for that. And they sent us a bill, estimate, a quote for north of $10,000 of remaining parts that we needed to complete that project. Got bogged down at that point.
And the parts was $10,000 itself to complete the $22,000 project. That wasn't included in the initial $22,000.
Miss Presley, I'm learning something here today. I didn't realize y'all still had inmates in the C block over there.
Yes, sir.
I thought all of the inmates were in the new facility that was built. About how many inmates stay in what I would consider a part of the old jail, I guess?
C block has
We
30 cells, 30?
got 40 cells
40
over there.
two-man cells.
And how many of those you think are occupied?
About 50.
I recognize those old doors and stuff. So those pictures kind of bring back flashbacks from the younger years practicing law. In 99, 2000, when we first started, I didn't even realize they even housed people over there still.
There is still in
I did not know
operation.
that. And I got one other quick question, and I wasn't trying to be funny, but anyway. The electricity, I see on your electricity, it's a pretty big significant, 130 to 156. Is there something new over there, or that's just what you estimate of the increase in electricity? I mean, just,
No, there's nothing new, but
is that what the electric bill has been in the last year or so, or has it gone up that much? That just looks like a
I'm
pretty
not
significant
sure.
increase.
I haven't even.
Okay.
I'm not sure on that.
I ain't been there to do it. You do. They don't send us the electric bill, so we don't get a chance to see.
Okay,
it.
so that's
It's
just-
direct pay. Yeah.
I got you. Okay.
The feeding went up.
You said the electric.
Yes, sir.
We got the feeding too.
Right now, it appears that we're kind of pretty much on budget. With the year-to-date that we currently have here, it says that we've got 16% left.
Say that again now?
It appears that we may be on budget, that we should be either, because we got 16% left with the year-to-date that I gave you guys copies of.
Okay, I don't have that. I'm not looking at that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the year-to-date shows, does that sound about right to you, Miss Presley, Sheriff Gardner? Okay. Okay.
I got you, Sheriff. I mean, Mr. Supervisor, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you had the year-to-date in here. I was looking at
They have
the,
the year-to-date in there as well
My,
as
Oh,
their budget requests.
Okay.
I understand. I didn't,
Yes.
Sheriff, Supervisor. as
Y'all
you
gonna
know-
get yourself in trouble with Sheriff Gardner.
Supervisor, as-
Yes, sir.
as you know, back-
okay, I got it.
Sheriff, the maintenance agreement on the locks and doors, we discontinued that ever since then because we thought that there was raping us on doing that, but we don't have any other choice. We don't have a maintenance team over there, we're using correction officers to kind of keep up with what we got going as well. And we were involved and we hired a maintenance man to do that, help us out in that area. That didn't last very long. And even at that, when he was there, money was tight to get to do some repairs with, and we just wasn't getting what we need done because
Yeah.
of finances.
I got it. Ms. Presley,
Okay, I got it.
one question that I wanted to ask you. Obviously, with operating the detention center, medical
Yes,
is, we have to make sure that we have medical. Now, I'm looking at your medical year-to-date, and it appears to be, it says you got 35% left. Is that accurate, or is that? It's
Not accurate.
Okay, all right. There must be some stuff that hadn't been turned in, or I don't know why that's not that correct way. But anyway, so you're going to need an increase?
In medical,
Medical?
yes.
Okay.
With the mental health cases on the rise and the fentanyl and drug users, we're having people in longer detox periods. We're administering Narcan when we need to, and they have to go out after that, after you administer the Narcan, to be seen. And it's just an increase in the population. And
You guys still have a healthcare company
yes,
that's providing
contracted service.
those services? And for the benefit of the members of council there, so you will know, they have a healthcare company that provides those healthcare services to the inmates. And because we have that healthcare company, they also assume the liability. Is that right?
Yes, they
Ms.
assume
Preston, Sheriff Gardner?
liability.
That's correct?
But-
Yes.
And they're on call after the hours of 5. We only have it 8 hours, Monday through Friday, and 8 on the weekend, between 2 days. It's not 24-hour medical, so anything happen after those hours, we have to normally take the person out to the hospital.
All right. Well, one last question. I know if they're not eating over there, that could create a problem for you. How is that? I know that we used to have a tough time with that years ago.
Well, we accommodated a lot. During COVID-19 pandemic, our numbers dropped, and the
Okay.
judges were very lenient on us getting people out, so, we can maintain control
Right.
of the spread of it. So our numbers has dropped, and we changed some of the products that we were purchasing and try to accommodate the inflation, because we went over the bill and some of the items were just outrageous in numbers. So we, accommodated in that way. They're still getting a balanced meal. Let me just say that, let the record reflect.
Thank you.
They're still getting their correct portion and a balanced meal. But we did accommodate a lot of the expense and stuff we were purchasing.
Sure. What's your average daily population over there?
The average daily was 68 at the Monday.
Is that everybody?
That's everybody.
Okay. Is that, you guys are, what, between 65 and 75,
Yeah.
65 and 80, 65 and 90,
75.
65 to 75?
With what maintenance problems we got too, when we get much above that, we have a lot of problems trying to find a place to house them.
When you get above that?
Yes.
Okay.
So we don't have the federal limits anymore.
We are.
How many do we have?
We,
Seven.
8,
8.
8 federal right now.
Really? Okay. Sheriff, you give me a call about that, please. Okay. See if we can't get y'all some help with that.
I have also on here like janitorial supplies. We were fortunate enough to receive 2 grants last year, 2 $15,000 grants for janitorial supplies. But of course, the increase in the medical concerns caused us to, constantly clean, and they were due to the pandemic. So we would request an increase in that as well to maintain that level of cleanliness in the facility.
Okay.
Travel and training was another one. Again, go back to the increase in the mental detainees and the substance abuse. It calls for more training. Some training is offered through the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy, but there is a price now associated with that. They do these, some mandated trainers, such as detention management and stuff, is now required, and their cost is like $20 a day. Sometimes they're 3-day long courses and stuff that we didn't have before, but now we have those expenses in that. And inflation on hotels and everything as well when you're going, sending these to different conferences and stuff.
Okay.
And last but not least, salaries.
Oh, your sheriff did a good job on salaries for you all. Okay.
Oh, okay.
He did a good job on that. Duly noted. Duly noted. Ms. Presley, I heard you mention something about training. I assume that you're very busy with the Jail Administrators Association.
Yes,
It's
very busy.
my understanding that you are on the board of directors with the Jail Administrators
Yes,
Association. Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wanted to make sure that this council knew that. I
Good.
thought that was very important to know. Very good. All right. Anyone else have anything else for the detention center? South Carolina Jail Administrators Association. She is the first, I think she's,
Talk about the renovation, bro.
Yeah, the renovations and everything that needed in.
I think she's the first vice president. First vice? Second vice. And so you'll be the president in 2 years.
In
Is
2
that-
years.
In 2 years, is that right?
Okay, if he gonna keep me.
She just said that on live television, by the way, okay? Okay.
He
You
was
plan on leaving me?
Y'all have to solve y'all spat, there's, another
I'll tell you
quarter.
one of the things I think when, in the project with that, I think funding. But one of the things that they did do is they came up with a company from Columbia that, to do an eval of everything that needs to be done. One of the things we found ourselves doing there, and I don't know if they spoke to it or not, but we kept putting money into stuff. It'd be something, then we invest money, we put money. And I think the question came up about a detention center, but a detention center is 24 hours. So I mean, if it's 10 years old, it's 30. If you got 10 physical years, it's 30 years old. That's a good way to look at it. That's the way that the buildings are gonna look. And I think that the investment that they came up with now, to let's go through and look at everything totally that needs to be done.
Right.
And then get us when you were talking about earlier, putting something together, put a proposal together, and then let's try to identify funding, whether that be going to the legislative body or whether that be using capital sales tax fund. I don't know where these things are going, but just throwing stuff out
Right.
in my head. But I think where they were going is the right direction, so we don't just keep putting $60,000 here and come back $100,000 here, and that's what we've been doing. But I mean, they've been doing a tremendous job, and I applaud them. But I just like us to think about that for the renovation project.
Sure, absolutely.
Appreciate all y'all do.
Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all.
And is that it for the sheriff? We got one more.
I'll tell you about it afterwards. Yes, sir.
They ain't on.
Be nice. Mr. Sheriff, we got communications now. Yes, sir.
We'll move on. I don't see, we'll go ahead on. Yeah, I got you. We'll go.
All right. Communications, we're good?
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. All right, let's see. E911?
Okay. Hold on. All right, go ahead.
You good there?
Yes, sir.
All right, and emergency management. I'm sorry, members of council, do you all have any questions for Sheriff Gardner as it relates to those two departments? Please accept my apologies. Okay, emergency management, Sheriff? No issues there?
No, sir.
Okay. Anybody with any questions? And victims advocate?
No, that's Ms. Laura. We do
Very good.
it. Yeah.
I think that does it, Sheriff.
Communications. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
I'm
the SRO,
sorry.
and the SRO stuff, I would say that the supervisor's office has correlated with us, so that is something where we have been working because of the funding coming to the state, and so we worked and sent all of that stuff in. So I thank him for that. Communications, though, I will submit also in the salary stuff, because that's another area where we need to try to be
Dispatches,
competitive. We have a great turnover. We end up losing people there. Let me say it that way. So I think the opportunity there too is again for us to be competitive. And I think there it's a lot easier for us to drive some overtime down because it's based staffing level. So how many dispatchers do you need to shift to ideally function with EMS, the other fire and the other agencies that are out working? And ideally we look at somewhere around 3. So a little easier to determine the workload versus sometimes with the sheriff's office, because you may come in Friday and it's slow, then you may come in the next Friday and you're like, what in the world happened? The floodgates open. But so I think working on the salary and line item there will help us in that tremendously. Yeah. So I can get that presented.
All right. Anybody with any questions for Sheriff Gardner? Sheriff, you have any more questions?
No.
Listen, thank you, and
Sir.
Chief Cumby, thank you all so much. Chief Cumby met with us yesterday
Yes, sir.
about the fleet issues. We're going to be meeting
I got you.
again soon with that. And I want to thank you for allowing him to come and meet with us. And
Oh, yeah.
Chief Cumby, thank you so much for your information on yesterday. All right.
All right.
Thank you all so
Hey,
much.
thank y'all for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That's for all you do.
Yes,
And
sir. Thank
Supervisor,
you
I
all.
would just like to reiterate what Councilman Wood said. Appreciate the hard work that y'all do,
Yes, sir.
you and Chief Deputy Cumby. I know y'all got a lot on you.
Yes, sir.
We've always had positive response in the area that I live in. I know y'all helped me out with a situation in the past year with my neighbor's house, and very timely, very professional. We appreciate all y'all do.
Yes, sir.
Keep
Thank
up
you.
the good work. We look
All right.
forward to trying to work with you and getting this thing resolved.
Yes, sir.
All right?
Thank y'all.
Y'all have a great day.